Yo, what's going on, fam, out there? Here I am live with my boy Mike Malcolm from Chi-Town, ready to talk about, what's going on out there. We're live with another episode of the Cannabis Diversity Report. What up, Mike?
Peace. It was good to hear. Appreciate you for having me, bro.
Absolutely, man. It's always a pleasure to check in with you, man. It's super dope. So for one, anybody that doesn't know Mike, this brother is talk about multi-talented, man. And I think a good example of one of the best examples of, finding your way to transition the skills that you have to find multiple different ways in the cannabis industry. So Mike, just tell folks a little bit about who you are, your background, and what you're doing out there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, so my name is Mike. I am a realtor here in Chicago. Been selling real estate full time for over 10 years. Been working in real estate in one shape or another for since I've been out of high school, so about 20 years. But I've always been passionate about cannabis. And I love to travel and eat food and stuff at different restaurants. And so the way that I thought good way to get myself into the industry was to create a blog about the things that I was passionate about, cannabis, travel, and food. So I created the Weed Travel Food blog and started documenting my experiences, both learning about the cannabis industry, my foodie experiences, and also my travels around the world. So that's kind of like how I kicked it off. And then a lot of things happened. I eventually went after licenses here in Illinois, which we're still waiting to see the final results on that. I also teach cannabis marketing and branding at Olive Harvey College, one of the city colleges of Chicago here in Chicago, and also work with different cannabis companies across the country on everything from product development to marketing and advertising to community engagement and outreach.
Yeah, well, and you know what? We travel food, man. That is super dope too. And I would love to hear you talk a little bit more about like the marketing side, because I don't know if you consider yourself, but in addition to being an entrepreneur, man, I consider you to be like an influencer, right? Like in cannabis, because man, y'all out here taking the dope trips. Every time I see you, man, the food, I be mouth watering looking at your Instagram and all of that. So how
Yeah.
did you build? Like, how did you even like, build that social media following and, like the skills and marketing and everything?
Yeah, I mean, I would actually just to your initial point, I really feel like a lot of what I learned as far as building my social media presence came from my background in real estate. I'm a at properties realtors, the name of the brokerage where I hold my license here in Chicago. And one thing that we always say at properties is that we're not just necessarily a real estate company. What we are, we're a marketing company, and what we market and advertise is real estate, right? And we use technology as a tool to help us do that, right? And so I took everything that I learned from marketing and selling real estate, from networking and connecting with people, and managing people, and took my people skills along with my marketing skills, and I used that on social media to create content and things like that. And so, when I first started the Weed Travel Food thing, I decided to do we travel and food because at the time, social media, and even to this day, social media is really strict on what type of cannabis products you can post, and or I should say, what type of cannabis content you can post. So one of my ideas was to switch it up. I didn't want to have a page that was just full of cannabis content, whether it be photos or videos or whatever. And also that I know me, I can get a little, I get bored myself with stuff like that. So I wanted to always mix it up, have different things to talk about, and different demographics, right? And so that was one of the main reasons why I decided to do weed, travel, and food, just because I thought that at least my page would be all weed pictures. I would have a little bit of food, some travel, and then that way that would decrease my chances of being deleted off of social
Yeah,
media.
people getting deleted left and right out here
Oh
these
man,
days,
left and right.
man.
Yeah, it's a blessing, man. I've been able to blow different social media accounts. I mean, way higher than I could have ever thought they would have gotten, especially like I said, without getting a whole lot of flagged. I've even had some of my posts get taken down, and then I contest it, and then they put my post back up. I'm like, whoa, you know what I mean? And I really think it's because they understand, I think, at least I hope that they understand that I'm not on social media necessarily trying to sell cannabis. I look at myself more of an educator. some people may say an influencer, you know, but I try to look at it more. I only say that because I always used to shun
No, you
the
gotta
title.
own it, bro. You gotta
I
own that, man.
know,
You
I
probably don't want to
know, I
say it.
know.
That's why I'm gonna say it for you, man.
Yeah, I shy away from the influencer only because, I feel like cannabis, it's a really fun thing. I enjoy it for recreational uses as well as for medicinal uses, but I also feel like it's the type of thing where I don't ever want to feel like I'm influencing anyone to do anything. I want to educate you. And so that's the approach that I take for all of my content. I'm either educating when it comes to cannabis, I'm educating on the product itself. Okay, this variation with this a variety, I should say, is offspring of these two parent strains. So I'm educating on the product, or I'm educating on the process. Like, okay, this is how things are grown. This is how you apply for licenses. Or I'm educating on the business, right? This is how white label deals happen. This is how, again, people set up operating agreements and things like that for them. This is how you can start ancillary business in the space. So that's what I want to do. And yeah, if that influences people, then fine. But yeah, like I said, I just want to be a little bit careful, because honestly, I don't care if people smoke weed or not. Right. So I never want to be like, oh, and I'm always super conscious about like overconsumption. When I think of cannabis influencers, I think of people with five,
Yeah.
six blunts in their mouth
Yeah.
at one time, lighting them all at the same time. Like, oh man, I'm just gonna get so super high and blow. And I think that actually does our industry a little bit of a disservice. There's definitely a place for it, but that's the immediate thing that comes to mind when I think of influencer.
Fact.
But I'll take it though. I'll take it
I
though,
know what
because
you
it's
mean.
it's a checks that come along with that influencer title too.
Hey,
So
yeah, yeah. So
so
no,
I'll take it.
but that's a real talk. Do you have people that have you come to their restaurants and like try it out, or like like send you different products and accessories that you get to try out, for free?
Oh yeah, most definitely. Whether it's the cannabis, travel, or the food space, there's definitely some perks, especially with a large following on Instagram, on different social media platforms. Yeah, I have a lot of cannabis, both regulated and unregulated. A lot of cannabis people that like to send me products to try. Same thing with the food industry. But you know what? When it comes to stuff like this, and this is maybe getting a little bit into the weeds a little bit, but a friend of mine told me something a long time ago when I asked him. I said, these companies are asking me to come out and eat their food. I guess they want me to take pictures of it, but they wanted me to do it for free. And he told me, he said, there's a publication here in Chicago. It's a very small publication, but uh, but they charge $5,000 an ad, right? And so my friend told me, he said, Mike, it's cool for you to do that, but don't let them use you as free advertisement.
Hmm.
Don't take, he was like, can you afford the food on your own? Like, look at the menu and see if you can afford the food on your own. And I was like, yeah, I can afford the food. He's like, then they should be paying you. Right.
Hmm.
And so that was something that I learned very, very early. And so a lot of times I do get offered free food and free products and stuff like that. But I may sometimes, it depends on who it is. Sometimes I take it and sometimes I say, maybe not,
Right. Because you
again.
want to be strategic about it. Yeah. And the reason I ask is because I think in this day and age, that's something that's really important for, and a lot of people want to learn. Like everybody's using social media, right? How can you monetize it? You're going to spend all day on Instagram, Clubhouse, all of this stuff is dope to get paid for it. One question I would love to know. So when you started We Travel Food, did you know that the Illinois licenses were going to come about? Was that always part of the plan, or were they two separate things?
Yeah, when I started the weed travel food thing, I really, at the time, people have been encouraging me to do a food or travel blog for a really long time. Again, my girlfriend and I, we travel all over the world. We eat out at restaurants all the time. So people had been encouraging me to do it for a while. But in 2018, I saw legalization on the horizon. There was a lot of conversation. I'm always been big into politics, so I'm always following what's going on. And there was a lot of conversation here in Illinois about legalization and licenses for people who qualify as social equity and all these other things like that. So at the time when I created the blog, I just wanted to create room in the space. I literally, it was when I thought of doing the blog, I literally Googled weed blogs to see who was doing something like that already, and specifically who was doing that in Chicago. Like, what's the Chicago? I was looking up Chicago influencers, cannabis influencers. Who are they? What are they doing? What does their content look like, right? And so, then I had a lucky break. As I was doing my research, I came across an article in GQ magazine that said Al Harrington wants to be NBA's first marijuana mogul. And I was reading the article. He kept talking about how Colorado was where the culture is. Colorado is where the culture is. Colorado is where the culture is. So a few years prior to this, again, this was in 2018 when I was reading the article. I'd say like 2015, maybe even 2013, a really, really good real estate client of mine here in Chicago went out to Colorado to get into the industry. And he had been invited me to come out there for a really long time, and I'd never gone. But we had always kept in touch. Fast forward to me reading the article, the guy, Al Harrington, he's like, Colorado, Colorado, Colorado. He made me think of my client. And I said, let me give my client a call and just see how everything's going. So I called him right there on the spot, computer, reading an article, pick up my phone, call my friend. He picks up his phone. I said, bro, how's business? He said, oh, man, we're in Colorado, we're in Oregon, we're in California, we're in Michigan. I said, damn, bro, how did y'all move so fast? Like, what happened, right? He's like, oh, well, I don't know if I told you, but my business partner is Al Harrington.
Wow.
Bro, I'm like, so that company is Viola, right? And I'm like, bro, Viola, that's your company? I'm reading about you. Like, I'm literally reading about you right now. Like, that's why I picked up the phone and called you. He's like, come out here. So that's what it was. It was me. And that's what encouraged me to do the blog and take it seriously, because it was all these kind of things. Call it fate, call it destiny, call it the universe, whatever you want to call it, God, But it was a lot of things that kind of just led me in that direction. So it started off with, just regular friends encouraging me to do something. People, for years had just been asking to take, like, people were asking, could they buy pictures of something that I took with my iPhone? Like, for my travels. He was just always encouraging me. And then I decided to take it seriously. And once I decided to take it seriously, kind of the universe worked to point me in the right direction to know, number one, I'm doing the right thing and that I should really pursue it. And so that's really, really what kind of happened. And since then, it's really been a snowball rolling downhill. That's what it feels like.
Right. And of course, all of this stuff is led you to applying for dispensary licenses and everything out there in Illinois. First, like, I guess, what's the breakdown? I know there's been some movement in the market there in Illinois. What's happening with Illinois' licensing program in general? Give the folks the overview. What's happening?
Okay, yeah, sure. So it's interesting that we had this plan, right? Because we planned this weeks ago. At the time when we scheduled this, me and you,
Yeah.
we had no idea that the licenses were going to come out in such a short period of time. We probably scheduled this a little over a month ago. Less than a month ago, these lotteries were announced.
Yeah,
They
I
happened
know.
like really
So crazy,
fast.
man.
Super crazy. So it's great to be able to talk to you about this. I recently wrote something about it, and I was a little harsh because I was angry that I didn't win. Let me start with that. I didn't win a license, even though I put in 10 applications. But to talk about what's happening here in Illinois, I would have to go back a little bit and just talk about the entire process to apply. So
Yep.
in 2019, Illinois opened up the application process for dispensaries, infusion licenses or processing licenses, transportation, and craft grow. I decided to apply for dispensaries. Only put in dispensary applications. I partnered with an in-state MSO to go after those licenses. Again, like I said, I haven't won. Now, there's been a lot of problems with the licensing moving forward in the state of Illinois. A lot of this was brought on, I should say, by the way the state, number one, identified social equity applicants, and then the way that the state put it so that you could score points. So the only way that you could score 100% of the available points on the applications, I believe this is for every application, but I'm going to speak right now just for dispensary because that's what I was so heavily involved in. But the same is definitely the truth for I believe almost all the applications. The only way that you can score 100% of the available points is if you give a if you make let me say make if you make a veteran 51% owner and controller of that company. That's the only way that you can score 100% of the points. The problem with that is that the law was not intended for veterans. The law was intended for social equity applicants, and the way that you qualify for social equity is either you've been arrested for cannabis in the state of Illinois in the past, you have that on your record. You or an immediate family member has as well. That's another way you can qualify. The second way that you qualify is if you live in what they call a disproportionately impacted area. And then another way that you qualify, and if you lived in that area, I believe 5 out of the last 10 years or something like that, qualify. And then the third way that you qualify, which was very controversial, was a way which was called. I mean, the only way that I don't know how they called it, but it was called. We call it the slave master clause, where basically your company can qualify as social equity if your company promises to hire 51% of its employees from one of those disproportionately impacted areas, right? So you can imagine it's a lot of problems that are going to come from that, right? From
Mm-hmm.
those three things. So first we have the veteran points that the only way you can score 100% of your uh, application points is if you give a veteran 51% owner of your control of your company. Whereas someone like me, who I qualify for social equity because I was actually arrested for cannabis in the past. So that means that even though I, on my own, qualify as social equity, I knew at the time when I applied that there was no way that I could score 100% of the available points. I think that's really important. Um, One, I want to say this is the first time that I've been able to speak, that I've given especially a live interview since I found out that we didn't win. And so, and I've said a lot of stuff on social media. One thing that I want to make clear is that number one, and I hate that we always have to, I have to say this all the time, but I don't have anything against vets.
Yeah.
There's no problem with vets, right? My father is a Marine. I have several active duty service members in my family right now. I have a lot of active duty and veteran friends, right? So it's not anti-vet conversation, and I hate that the state uh, put that in there because so often this is where it seems to the conversation stops with a lot of people because they see it as, oh, you don't want veterans, or why shouldn't veterans get licenses, right? That's the thing. And I'll break it. I would say that the issue with the way that the state has the law written to earn the points as far as the veteran aspect is that the law was not written to help veterans. The law was not created to help veterans. It's not a veteran round. It's not a veteran law. It was specifically written to help people who have been identified as social equity applicant by those three things I told you in the past, right? And I told you before. So to the veteran point was something that I know that was added at the very last minute, and it had a huge impact on how people actually decided to apply because the majority of people that applied for licenses here in Illinois saw that and said, oh, wow, I can't get 100% of the points unless unless I find a veteran who I can trust, give 51% of my company to, and then apply for licenses. The problem with that is that number one, in my opinion, it does a disservice to veterans. It uses them as a pawn in a game into which, again, you get these veteran points if the veteran is 51% owner of the company, but not if the veteran is 50% owner of the company or 49% owner of the company. So it's almost like the veteran status doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter that I'm willing to hire a veteran. It only matters that we give them the 51% in control of the company, and then which it wouldn't be my company, right? If I give, I'm not a vet. So if I give, even though I qualify as social equity and I'm knowledgeable about the industry and I have ideas on how to get it done, the only way that the state will say that I can get a license is if I give my company to someone else. So that's a problem. The other issue is with the ways that people have been, the majority of people who apply for licenses also qualify for social equity because of where they lived, not necessarily because they have a record, and not necessarily, not necessarily because they've been negatively infected. I'm sure you're aware a lot of neighborhoods in Chicago that were negatively infected in the past by the war on drugs have been gentrified.
Yeah, same as DC.
Okay, so a lot of these people that are now applying for these licenses here and claiming social equity because they live in a certain area, it might not be who you think it should. When you think of, oh yeah, we're going to get more brown and black people in the industry, that's not necessarily what played out. And I want to say, because I know a lot of people want, and they, I don't take this out on social equity applicants that apply in these different ways, because they did what the state allowed. They played by the rules. Same way that I don't hold anything against veterans that applied the way that they did, because they did what was right. But what I really like to see moving forward is the state to say, okay, we created this law to address and help people who have been directly affected by the war on drugs, right? So I would love to see the state maybe create some set asides moving forward for people like myself that were actually arrested for weed in the past. Because now I've been arrested for weed in the past. And I don't have a license. The state just gave out 185 licenses, and I give you that long list of everything of my qualifications, for whatever reason, the state still didn't feel that I was qualified to give a license. But I'm sure they're going to give some to people who maybe don't have my same resume. Yeah, can't do anything about that. But I would just hope, because I'm more of solutions. I'm a solutions type of guy, and I'm really hoping that moving forward, that the state prioritizes people who were actually arrested for weed and have that on their record. Because, a few months ago, I was asked by a reporter, how did my arrest negatively affect me, and me moving forward in my aspirations and anything I wanted to do. And at the time when he asked me, that was the first time anyone asked me that, and I answered quickly, it didn't affect me. It didn't negatively affect me. But that wasn't a true answer. I thought about that afterwards, and I don't know necessarily if that was a true answer, because I was arrested for a minor cannabis charge. I got off with probation or something like that. And so in my mind, it didn't negatively affect me. I've always been the type of person where I'm never going to let the man or the
Stop
system
you.
hold me down, right? And so when the reporter asked me how it negatively affected me, I said it hasn't, right? Because I would never acknowledge to him that they stopped me from pursuing my goals. But if I was to really be honest with myself and sit back and think about it, I'm not so sure that that's necessarily true. Because even though I've been able to make a way for myself out here, there was a time when I was applying for jobs and I was trying to find my way, right? And I wasn't getting hired. And I can't say that it was that cannabis charge that had people say no to me, but I can't discount it completely and say I honestly forgot about the cannabis charge until the until the licenses came up, because I got
Yeah,
arrested for cannabis like in 2000. That's maybe 2003, 2002. I was like 20 years old, 19 years old, something like that. And so I honestly have forgot about it, and I've done everything in my life moving forward. Not like, oh man, I got this thing that's holding me back. I just do what I want to do, and I try to make the best of it. But I really feel like, that there's probably things that charge has held me back that I'm probably not even aware of. And so I can just imagine, if someone like myself has been held back, I can imagine how other people have been negatively affected as well. And I'm pretty sure when these licenses, once the dust settles, and all these licenses finally get issued, what we're going to see is all of these companies, or I'm gonna go out on a limb here, right? And I'm going to say 90+% of these companies are going to be veteran owned companies. I would say even 95% are going to be veteran owned companies, and 90+% of them are going to be companies that qualify for social equity based off of where they live, not necessarily because they were directly impacted by cannabis or arrested or something like that. And so I think that's a problem. I think the state of Illinois still fell short on their efforts, even though some may say they tried their best. You know, I'm not so
So
sure
where
about
is it
that.
now? Or is that all? Is that all of the licenses that have been awarded, or are there still more?
Yeah, so what happened was because of the veteran clause that was in the application, applicants sued, and so what the state did to respond to the lawsuits was to get ahead of the judge's decision and hold and issue new licenses. Initially, they were only going to give out 70. The state of Illinois was going to give out 75 licenses in last year for the entire state. They were going to only give out 75. And then when it was all this issue with the lawsuits, everything got delayed. So the state said, okay, this year in 2021, we're going to issue an additional 110 dispensary licenses to address these issues. Um, they held the two lotteries. One was just held last week, Thursday, and the one was held the Thursday before that. Um, Majority of those licenses went to existing cannabis companies. So again, what I'm saying right now is not like a theoretical thing when I say, oh, it didn't really work. The majority of these licenses went to companies because when the state decided to add the additional 110 licenses, they changed the requirement needed to get into the lottery. The initial issue was the veteran points, right? These points amount to 5 to 2 points, depending on how you're adding them up on your application. It's like 90%, 98%, 99%, 98% of the total application. We're talking about 2%, right, of the points. The state, along with uh, advocates, let's say advocates, argued to, even though we're only arguing about 2 points or 2% of the points or 1% of the points on the they lowered it all the way down to 85%, the threshold that needed to get into the lottery. So the lottery was flooded with people all of a sudden. You went from the top tier to just a whole bunch of just random people in the lottery. Again, the first lottery was just a general lottery, and then they did they did two lotteries of 55. The first lottery, anybody that scored 85% could get into that lottery. The second lottery, you have to qualify for social equity either because you have been arrested for cannabis in the past, or your family member have been arrested for cannabis in the past, or because you lived in a disproportionately impacted area. You did not qualify for that second lottery if you were using the slave master clause. That was the way that the state tried to address some of these issues that people had. But then the third lottery, which still hasn't happened yet, is scheduled for August 19th. That is the original lottery with the original 75 licenses that we're going to be giving out. In that lottery, those are going to be all the veteran. So that lottery is still going to happen. It's going to be all the veteran people and veteran-led apps. And people who use the slave master clause are still included in that lottery. So what that means for somebody like me, because I know that was a whole lot of information for people who don't know what's going on, right? But what that
Mm-hmm.
means for somebody like myself, again, I qualify for social equity because I was arrested for cannabis, right? I worked hard on my application, right? Really, I partnered with a large MSO, so they handled a lot of the operational stuff part of my application. The part that I was really invested in my application was the community aspect of it. What am I going to do with my community? What type of programs am I going to be able to generate with the revenue that comes from my stores? And what are my ideas for what I would like to, or what type of impact I would like to have? It turns out those points ended up not really mattering because all you needed to score was 85% on the application. Things like the operation agreement don't really matter to the state because they just letting anybody at this point, I say anybody get a license because if you can't score 85% on your application after the state, oh, so this is another thing. Another thing that the state did last year when it was all these problems, the state initially said that only 21 people qualified for the 75 licenses. When they released scores last year for dispensaries and it was only 75 licenses being issued, the state said only 21 companies qualified. People like myself knew that there was no way that only 21 companies qualified. And so what the state did was they issued deficiency notices out to all the applicants and told them what areas of their application they got wrong. Now I applaud the state for doing that. Never heard, right? Sounds crazy, right? Never heard that. I applaud the state for doing that. But my thing is, after the state gives deficiency notices out to the people, they should be able to get those points, right? Or they should be able to fix what they had wrong. They shouldn't need an extra security blanket and say, oh, you still didn't get it right. Oh, that's okay. We're going to just let you in the lottery anyway, even though we told you everything that you got wrong on your application. A great example of that is when I got my initial scores, we initially scored 92% on our application. Then we got our deficiency notices. We saw some of the things that they had marked as wrong. We resubmitted. We scored 95% on our application. And I honestly feel like we probably scored a little bit higher because some of the things that they gave me, they docked me for. One of the things that they still didn't give me points for was Illinois residency. I've only lived in Illinois my entire life. My companies are Illinois, and I got flow charts and everything that says Illinois. I still didn't get Illinois residency. Anyway,
Crazy.
yeah, that's a whole other issue. There's a lot of problems with the scoring, but anyway, the point is that we were told what was wrong. We addressed it. We fixed it. We got a 95% score on our application. Other people still didn't score that high, right? After even being told what they had wrong. So, I think the lotteries were a good attempt by the state to address what they had seen go wrong. I just still feel like the lotteries in themselves and the state bungled everything from the very beginning, fumbled, I should say, everything from the very beginning because they had it so that people could put in an unlimited amount of applications for a limited amount of licenses. That's something else that was just terrible. That ended up with a lot of companies flooding the lotteries with it. And then the state also allowed companies to win multiple licenses, even though it's a limited amount of licenses, right? Only giving out a small amount, but you can put in an unlimited amount of applications for a limited amount of
That is
licenses,
crazy.
and then you can win multiple licenses, right? And then in the case of the craft grow, you don't even have to stand up your company. You don't have to stand up that craft grow. As soon as you win, you can sell the paperwork, which is happening right here, right now. Craft grow licenses were recently issued out. They gave out 40 craft grow licenses. Getting back to your question, the state also issued 40 craft grow licenses in the last few weeks. And a large amount of those licenses are in the process of being sold.
Mm.
A lot of those people that won those licenses were not what you would consider social equity applicants. A lot of those people that won those licenses don't even have the money to pay for their license fee. There's a $40,000 application fee from what I'm hearing. Of the 40 applications the 40 licenses that were awarded, 10 of those people can't even pay the fee for it. So it's like, why are you giving licenses to people that even can't even pay their fee? You know what I mean? It's like, it's so ridiculous. And then, not throwing any shade at the state, but there's so many things. There's such a lack of transparency that's going on here right now. For instance, stay on the craft grow. The craft grow score winners were announced, but the people who lost still have not received their final score. And when they ask why they haven't received their final score, the state of Illinois is telling people that they're still scoring applications. So if you're still scoring application, how are you awarding 40 licenses?
Right.
It makes no sense. Or I could go from the dispensary aspect, right? The dispensary lottery, as we're calling it, as the state is calling it, was done in private. So even though there's no, like I said, because I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, anything like that. Like I said, anything unfounded, put any unfounded things out there. I just think that the state has just done a terrible job. State of Illinois has just done a terrible job of being transparent to the applicants, being transparent to the general public. I think about how in 2020, when the MSOs had a lottery, the state of Illinois did a lottery for the MSOs for them to get their second locations. They did that at City Hall in front of cameras and press in a full room. I was in the room when the lottery happened for the MSOs. So they'll do a lottery in public. It's not like it couldn't happen and they couldn't figure it out. Lollapalooza was just 2 weekends ago, right? They can hold large events and stuff here in Illinois, Chicago, if they want to, right? And that's
True.
how I really thought that the state and the city should do. Like, they should hold a big event, make it fun, put it at the United Center or something like that, and have people come in with popcorns and watch the lottery balls and see who wins. You know what I mean? Like, why not make it fun? They didn't want to do that. They did it secretly inside of a back room, and they released some names, and then surprise or unsurprised, super well connected. All super well connected people won. All the large companies won, and yes, a few people, random black people that won. You know, a lot of them, some of them that I know. You know, so again, no shade on them. I'm happy that they won, but it just doesn't give a lot of confidence moving forward. It's, to me, it's a lot, considering the history that Illinois and Chicago politics has. To me, it's a tall order for the state to just ask people to believe and to trust that all these things were done in good faith, when they've done so much to hide the process. Again, we fight so hard to get to the very end, and then they throw up the curtain at the last minute, like, oh yeah, oh, we're gonna get you the licenses, yeah. So this is multi-billions of dollars on the line right here, but don't worry, turn your head, and it's all on the up, it's all on the level. You know,
And
nothing to
how are
fear.
and how are advocates coming together now, like to try to address that? Are there any like movements now, or is it, I guess, are the people like really tired? Because I know it's been some years that y'all have been working on this. Do you feel like people are still fighting, or a lot of people are just at the point now where they're just throwing their hands up and they're done with it?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. From what I've heard, over the last few days, weeks or so since everything has happened, I think there may be some more lawsuits coming, specifically about the lottery thing, which is one thing I'll harp on it. I don't know if I'm going to join that lawsuit or not, but I do think there's some merit to it. Again, only for the fact that I was at the lottery for the MSOs. I don't understand why the state gives more respect to the MSOs than they do to their own constituents and to their own voters, right? So if a public lottery is good enough for the MSOs, why is it not good enough for us? A lot of these people spent their hard-earned money on this process. They should at least be able to see it through to the end and know that everything was done fairly. I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen. Um, I will say this. Uh, I'm gonna say it. I've been stepping on toes the whole time. Ain't no point in stopping now. A lot of advocates, a lot of people that were marching and fighting for this stuff, they won now. So I don't know how much of an effort there'll be moving forward to change things if the people with the megaphones win.
Mm-hmm.
So
And question, man.
they have little incentive to see anything done over again.
And that's a good point too, man. And one thing I'm wondering, man, I think Illinois is often like, a lot of people have, for a long time, it was like the example of like social equity, what it's going to be, and everybody talking about how good it is. And of course, there like some of the good things like money going into the communities, all that stuff is great. But as we see like social equity, like this theme spreading, right? Like here in Jersey, where I'm at, New York, Connecticut, like, Virginia, there's this promise of all this like happening. What advice do you have for folks that are like, going into this? Like what have you learned? What is like your key takeaways? Because like you put a lot into this, man. Like I've seen you, man, for like over, some time like working at this, man. Like what do you like, I mean, aside from like how you like, man, what do you just tell folks, man?
Yeah. First thing is, I regret nothing. I don't feel like it's been a waste of my time. I feel like I was able to make some change. Um, you know, I wanted to say this publicly because I've hinted around this, but I want to say it publicly and explain it just a little bit more. That when I applied for the licenses in 2020, and I knew at the time that I'd applied, I had no chance to win. And I say this with all due respect to my partners, my partners who paid the fee, right? Who paid the money came out their pocket, right? I knew at the time that I applied, we knew at the time when we applied that we had no chance to win. But I thought that I could make a change. I thought that I could make a difference. And I thought that, and I knew that, like most things, if you don't get involved early, then people don't take you seriously. It's almost like voting. If you don't vote, then how can you complain? Right? How can you
Mm-hmm.
complain if you're not willing to get involved? So I look at this, me applying, as an opportunity to make change. And that's what I would tell anybody who's interested. I would say get involved and get involved early. The way that I think the way that I really got some media attention, well, I know the way that I first got media attention was me going to a city hall, city hall meeting, or a town hall, like a town hall meeting that the city that was put it on at Malcolm X College in 2019. At the time, they were talking about zoning for cannabis businesses and where they were going to be allowed and where they weren't going to be allowed. And at the time, the city was saying that they weren't going to allow any to be in the downtown area. They wanted to push the MSOs. Again, this is all talking about where the MSOs were going to be allowed to put their operations. The city said that they wanted the MSOs to go into the local neighborhoods so that people in the local neighborhoods could have more opportunity for jobs. And I told the city of Chicago that didn't make any sense. That is from the perspective that everybody in those neighborhoods wants to work for these companies instead of owning their own businesses in their own neighborhoods. Because if the city allowed, or I should say, if the city forced these large multi-billion-dollar companies that have hundreds, if not tens of millions of dollars already allocated for real estate, if they force those into the local neighborhoods, what that's going to do is they're going to buy up all the prime real estate, right? And then they're going to make it that much harder for people like myself come online, um, to be able to find a place to operate. And because you just can't put a dispensary anywhere, right? And if the
Mm-hmm.
MSOs have a 2-year head start of where they can put their find in a place, then they're going to buy up the best because they have the money to do so. And people like myself can't afford to go downtown, even if you were allowed me to, right? I just can't afford that real estate.
Mm-hmm.
But a large MSO, they could be in the red for 2-3 years, and they'll be fine with that as long as they have that prime real estate and can say that they're on the Magnificent Mile, or they're in a certain area, they're on Restaurant Row or something like that here in Chicago. So I say all that to say that when I said that, the entire auditorium, because this is pre-COVID, it was an auditorium full of people. Everybody got clapped and cheered and agreed what I said, applauded what I said. Um, got me interviewed by Chicago Sun-Times. That was my very first interview in the local newspaper about my cannabis, my efforts, and most importantly, the city changed the law. They changed the rules after
Mm-hmm.
that. I'm not going to take credit and say, oh, they changed it because of what I said, but it's hard for me to think that they didn't take note of me saying that and the entire auditorium clapping. And then
Mm-hmm.
me getting interviewed, restating what I had said in front of everyone else to the newspapers. And then not too long after that, they changed the laws a little bit about where they were going to allow it. And they loosened up the areas and allowed people to move around a little bit. So, and I can think of other things like that, even like the craft grow. I've done a lot of interviews over the last few months where I have repeatedly said that the craft grow coming out after the dispensaries here in Illinois was a huge problem. And I had said many, many times that even though I had not applied for any craft grow, I felt to have a strong, robust market here in Illinois. We need craft grow out to help the dispensary stand up because there's a lack of supply here, right? So how are
Mm-hmm.
you gonna issue out even 75 new stores? Was going to be hard with the limited supply that already exists. But now, how is the state going to do 185 new stores with no new supply, right? It makes no
Yeah.
sense. So I have been saying for months, and anytime I get on top and interview, I say the state has to put out craft grow first. The state has to put out craft grow first. I know I'm in a dispensary round, and the dispensary supposed to come out first, but I want the craft grows to come out first. The craft grows came out first. They came out a week or two first before the dispensaries, but they came out first. And like I said, it's little things that now that I've lost, it's little things that I can say, oh, I'm happy that this happened. I'm happy, but I am happy. I do want to see a robust, strong market here. I want social equity applicants to win and to succeed and be to survive more than anything. I want them to survive, right? And so again, I can take credit for that, but I have to feel that maybe someone's, again, it's not rocket science, but hopefully someone saw that and said, you know what, he's making a good point. He keeps saying it over and over and over again. You know, 'cause I was like, I'm like, they need craft grow. We need craft grow. We need craft grow. You know, and I'm happy to see that. And so again, for anybody who's interested and figure out what they can do, my most get involved in every aspect, start early. The very first thing that I did when I decided I wanted to go after cannabis or even be in the industry before I knew I was even going after license, the very first thing that I did when I decided I wanted to be in the industry seriously was join Chicago Normal. You know, I joined advocacy groups. I found out what the issues were. Shout out to Chicago Normal, shout out to Edie, everyone else.
Advocacy is big. That's super important, man.
It's super big. Yeah, that's how you start, because you need to know what the issues are. And then everything that you've been hearing me complain about for the last 45 minutes, everything from the lotteries to the veteran issues to the all this other stuff, how social equity is defined, all that starts before the applications come out. Before the applications come out. So if people really want to get involved, you have to, this is a brand new industry, you have to be involved in the creation of the law itself. You can't wait for the law to do you any favors and say, oh man, they said they're working on social equity, I know I'm gonna get mine. Trust me when I tell you, that is not reality. You can be qualified, you can be social equity, you can know your stuff, and you can still not get a license because the policy was not written in a way to favor social equity, even though that was the intention of the law itself.
Such a great point, man. And so now, you know, now that you're here, what are some of the things that you're doing to pivot, right? Like what's next? What are you working on now? I don't have my rolling tray in close enough reach, but man, those
Ooh, I
leather
do.
Croninger rolling trays are dope. First of all,
Yeah,
shout out
yeah,
to the whole Croninger fan. But what
yeah.
other stuff are you doing?
Yeah, shout out to the homies at Cronja. Yeah, so yeah, a little quick plug real quick. So some of my guys that are longtime friends of mine, industry cannabis industry veterans, they have licenses out in California, distribution, manufacturing, co-packing and delivery based out of LA. They also have their own brand, which is the Cronja brand, Cronja Culture brand. And we have these really cool rolling trays, these portable rolling trays right here. Leather luxury rolling trays. So we have accessories and we got some flower products. I'm an equity partner in them. They brought me on last year, gave me an equity stake in the company to help them grow it. And so that's been great. I'm also on my company. My company, WTF Consulting, is on a monthly retainer with Columbia Care, the MSO Columbia Care. I had my joint venture with them to go after my licenses. And a few months ago, they put me on a monthly retainer to help them build out some of their internal programs. I can't speak to some of that stuff. I'll tell you offline. I can't speak to it live right now. But ultimately, the goal is to help social equity and find and bring more diversity into the space. So I'm helping them with some things. I'm still going to go after some of these licenses here. There's a couple of new license types here in Illinois that was recently created that I want to help with that. Also want to help the city and the state refine some of these laws because again, the advocacy work without win, I always say without win or loss, the advocacy work doesn't stop, and it goes from everything from again how social equity is defined to where you can smoke your legal product now, right? Illinois was great about legalize. It's great that we have legal weed here now, but you can't smoke it anywhere.
Yeah. Hey, New York changed the game with that one, bro.
New York,
Like it's really real. Anywhere you smoke a
100%.
cigarette, bro, I done tested the limits of it to the fullest extent.
That's dope. Yeah, I love to see that. That's what we need here. We need that type of change here, or even the fact that if you go into an Illinois dispensary, you can't look at the weed. You can't look us
Mm.
or smell the product. You got to look at a screen and go off
Oh.
of and go off of a picture to decide what type of weed. That's not how
Wow,
weed
that's
is bought
interesting.
anywhere.
So, because like even in Maryland, back when I was a bud tender, we were just medical, but we were like deli style. So like when people would come up, I could let them smell it, look at it, touch it. They stopped that with COVID, but it's all part of it.
That was never here. That was never pre-COVID that you couldn't do that.
Mm.
And yeah, you can't smell it, you can't look at it, you just gotta buy. And even the containers that they are sold in, they most of them aren't translucent, so you can't see, you can't like look at the glass and like, oh, I don't like that one. That one got small nugs and then give me that one. It's almost none of that too. A few of them have some glass jars, but so my point is that a lot of that stuff needs to be changed. Open consumption needs to be changed. Just a lot of things that we see. Again, there's I also feel like people with larger cannabis convictions need to qualify for social equity. That's another thing. Not all cannabis convictions even qualify for social equity. If it only goes to a certain amount, So if you was a big kingpin here, really selling weight, you technically don't even qualify for social equity. You
Mm-hmm.
know. So it's those type of things. I really I want to lead the fight on that, and I look forward to being able to help the few social equity applicants that won here, the real ones, the few real legit social equity applicants that actually won. I look forward to helping them fight the power, man, and like still stand up. When I think back about it, if I was to be honest with myself, I probably didn't do myself any favors over the last year, calling out some of the large heads, these MSOs here, some of the largest companies. I called them out on some of the BS that I was seeing here, but I'm still here, and I'm gonna still be calling out that stuff. And I'm looking forward to doing that as well. I'm looking forward to holding the politicians to accountable, the MSOs accountable, the social equity applicants accountable. I hope, again, I want everybody has the right to make their money how they make it, but I would hope that the social equity applicants will understand the value what they have. And the bird in the hand versus two in the bush is a good analogy here. I'm sure a lot of them would rather take a quick payout, a couple 100,000, maybe even $1 million up front, and just go ahead and, some people maybe never was going to see a payday like that. So they're looking at this like a quick flip. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm really hoping to help Black and brown people build businesses here, as well as the MSOs too, because at the end of the day, I'm a businessman. And like I said, again, I don't fault the MSOs or the large companies for the way that they apply. They took advantage of the laws that were written by the state of Illinois. And so if I think they can be good actors in the space, I look forward to working with them as well. Oh, and then one other thing, I'm teaching at Olive Harvey again, so I have more classes, cannabis marketing and branding, where I'll be talking about a lot of this stuff. Yeah, I'm just really looking forward. I was discouraged, for a day or so, but I'm back. I'm done feeling sorry for
Yeah.
myself. I'm done feeling sorry for myself, and I'm ready to fight all over again. So if they thought they was gonna hold me back by not getting my license, they was sadly mistaken.
Yeah, man. Nah, well, that's the attitude that I think is important to win. And I say that because, man, this is such a long game. It's like even any of us that like you talk like these years like 2018, 2019, look where we are now in the industry, yo. It's like been in the game for a minute. And even me, like I started off the exact same way. It's like I applied for those licenses in Maryland, Jersey. I like, never saw like all of this stuff that was coming. So like you said, being able to continue to be a part of this advocacy community, be able to continue to help make a difference for all of us, man, for like you said, for all of these people where this is happening all over the country is so important, bro. So, it's dope to still have you continue that leadership and everything like that. Tell folks, where can people get in touch with you? Where can they check up on We Travel Food and find you on social media, online and all of that?
Yeah, sure. I'm everywhere, all social media. I use my name, it's Michael Malcolm. You can find me on all platforms. You can also find We Travel Food brand on all platforms. I got something to tease with that. I'm gonna do it for the next time. I'm working on something, bringing some products. Let's say that I'm working on bringing some products, some We Travel Food branded products out as well. Love
Nice.
when I can speak a little bit more on that right now. Yeah, that's in the works. And so yeah, so We Travel Food everywhere. Michael Malcolm everywhere. And like I said, I'm just here to be a resource and to man just kick some ass, man. And salute to you, bro. I'm so happy to see you doing
Appreciate
your
that,
thing.
man.
And yeah, man, we need more people like you as well, man, who really passionate. Like I know we talked before about you going through it, and I feel your pain. Really feel your pain now. Before I was
Nah,
feeling your
bro,
pain
because
when you was
I
talking.
know that, like you said, that I didn't like you try to think about it and act like you just, bro, that's the hardest thing in the world. Like, it took so long to just be like, sitting here looking at the world. But I'll tell you, man, it really was the homie Sheun. He gave me the biggest advice. It's like, we all have a role to play, like in this, you know what I'm saying? And shit happens for a reason. And we just keep going. But like you said, that as you were saying it, bro, it's like, just I had the day. Like I know the feeling because I've been there before, man. But
Well, not only that, it's weird. I'll leave with this little quick anecdote too. Is that it's really weird because even today stuff happened. Like earlier today, two different groups who won lotteries reached out to me and said, "Hey, Mike, can you help us find our location for our dispensary?"
yeah, you
And
still
it
a real
was,
estate agent. You
and it
get some
was
real
like,
estate money. I
little
know, but
fool.
it's like,
It was like,
I know,
it's like a
I know,
knife.
I
It's
know, I
like,
know.
I was like, are they doing this? I had to think myself, like, are they doing this just to pocket twist the knife a little bit? But
Hey,
you know, I
take
was
the
like,
check, man.
I'm gonna take the check,
Yeah,
bro. I'm gonna take the check, and I'm gonna take my mama back to Africa again, bro. And I ain't gonna be tripping. You
yeah,
know what
yeah,
I'm
man.
saying?
So yeah, that's another thing. We didn't get to what, man. You got to tell people, man, if they're listening, man. I guess what trips do we need to be taking when the world opens back up? We got to have you talk about some travel stuff, man. Where's the
Real
place
quick, yeah.
that you would want to
Gotta
go, black folks, right now?
Yeah. Africa is a must. I went to Egypt in 2016. I went to South Africa in 2017. I went to Tanzania, Zanzibar, Ethiopia in 2018, and I went to Senegal in 2019. So north, south, east, west. I loved every single trip. Everyone was different. I would definitely put Senegal and Tanzania uh, very high on my list. I would also add Colombia. Colombia is an
Mm.
amazing country. Colombia, Cartagena in particular, is one of my favorite places to go. And Jamaica. Jamaica is hands down.
Word.
Jamaica, I've been all over. You heard me name all these different places. I've been all over the world, bro. Jamaica is still probably my number one place to travel in the entire world. I love the people there. And it's like it's just super welcoming. And they were taking. I actually went to Jamaica in October, right in the middle of the pandemic, and they were taking COVID extremely serious. I felt safer there traveling than I did in the States. Um,
Word.
so yeah, definitely check out Colombia, check out Jamaica, and go to Africa, people, man. Your cousins to hear, bro. I'm telling you, I saw your twin, bro. I'm telling you,
Yeah, the motherland, huh?
you go over there and you see family members, bro. You really see, you like, this is where we came from. Like
Yeah,
you could say, you're like, man, this so is no mistake. And everybody that walking down the street look like family, bro. It's
definitely
a
got to
beautiful thing.
experience that one day.
Yeah. That's why I'm really, really, really super looking forward to getting back out here and even working with some different companies across the country because I have some connections with some cannabis companies in Jamaica. Shout out to the homies at Utopia Life. I have some connections with some friends in Canada. Shout out to my homie Emily at Ohio. So, I'm looking forward to getting back out there as well to see, the world been shut down for a year, but cannabis still growing. And businesses it's still exploding all over the world. So I can't wait to get back to some of these other markets and see what's going on out here.
Yeah, man. And hey, y'all, before I let Mike go, I know we already talked about social media, but I really got to say, Mike is one of the like dopest people on Clubhouse. He be having that joint popping. So, like, yo, when do you have your Clubhouse rooms, yo, so people can tap in? Because yeah, I
Bro,
know you drop all type of knowledge in there. You still doing them?
Oh, I have not. I have not opened up my own clubhouse room. Again, I'm on Clubhouse at Michael Malcolm, and you can follow We Travel Food as well. We booming on there, but I have not been on Clubhouse doing my own rooms in some months. I've been layers of focus on some of this other stuff, and I haven't been on Clubhouse as much. Probably will be once winter comes back and we're not outside as much. I would say definitely look out for some stuff here. I'll be definitely down to talk some stuff if you're still doing your rooms. I don't know if you still are on there,
Yeah,
but I
I
love.
got a little overwhelmed myself, man. I came out going hard. Still rock with my folks with Oaksterdam, doing the room with them when I get the time to do it. But it's a lot this to be on social media, like you said, out here trying to do the real work too at the same time. So
It's a lot. Yeah, like you said, I mean, I named everything that I got going on. I actually still do a real estate room on Clubhouse every Tuesday morning. I did it this morning from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. I do a cannabis a cannabis room. I do a room about real estate, about realtors.
got
It's
you.
called how realtors are using Clubhouse. And we talk about all the tools and tricks there because I'm still, again, with all this cannabis stuff going on. I just put a 10-unit building on the market for sale just yesterday. I'm
Nice.
still. I thought I was gonna be able to tell my client that I can't do it because I got these licenses, but
Hey.
didn't get the license. So look, I'm gonna just sell a 10-unit. Like I'm gonna
Nah,
get it
well,
either way.
that's the reason it's blessing to be a talented young black man that can do multiple things, man. You know what I'm saying? That's the vibe, and
Yeah.
that's why it's so important because there's a lot of us out there, especially like you said, like having that history in the background, being arrested for cannabis, man. This is people like us. We really need to get up in this, man. So, bro, I appreciate you coming through. Just sharing your experience and all of that.
No, I appreciate you and appreciate the invite. I'm so happy I was able to share my thoughts. Just like I said, it's the first time that I've talked to any press, or any media since the loss last week. I'm happy to get some of these thoughts out because I've been, sitting down and make sure that I craft my statement properly and, get my thoughts out the right way and get some of these things out that I know people are wondering about. So I appreciate you giving me the outlet.
You already know, bro, and I'll rap with you soon, man.
Yeah, for sure, bro. Appreciate you.
Yep. Peace. All right,
Love.
y'all. All right.